Hello, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon for the first Ride 4 virtual community event. Presented by Milestone with the support of Yamaha Motor Europe, I'm your host this afternoon, Alan Boyston. And today we'll explore Ride 4 in greater detail, this being the fourth release of the franchise that in recent years has emerged as an unmatched appreciation and a passionate expression of the two wheels experience realised into a video game. Today, I'll be joined by Michele Coletti, recently appointed executive producer at Milestone. Hello, Michele.
Hello, Alan.
Thank you for joining us today and welcome to this virtual community event. And as this is focused on the community, we'd also like to include your questions. So if there are specific details you'd like to know more about, add your questions and we'll get back to those later in the presentation. And Michele will give you his responses and insight directly. We'll also be hearing from real-life biking experience in the form of Andrea De Soli and Nicola Canepa, giving their insight into the world of real bikes and racing. So then, without further ado, let me move on to our first question for Michele. Following the release of Ride 3, the development team will have received a lot of feedback, both positive and negative, from the community, as you do with all games. When taking this feedback into account on the Ride 4 design outline, what were some of the key aspects highlighted for improvement?
Well, we tried to work on the best aspects of the game, so keeping intact the feeling of variety. So lots of tracks, lots of different bikes, but Ride 4 can be considered a reboot, not a normal iteration of a Ride 3. So many times you have the temptation to compare the two games, but actually Ride 4 goes in a bold direction, trying to make things new and in its own way. So we concentrated most on making the game very accessible. You can progress through the career at your own pace. The physics are going into a definite direction in this sense, and the graphics are completely made from scratch for the bikes, for the tracks. We'll cover it later on. The keyword here is refinement. The game wanted to be and is an absolute game in terms of refinement, of polishing. It's a completely new game made from scratch, from the grounds up. So it's all evident throughout the game, throughout the content.
Absolutely. It's always a process, isn't it, of releasing a game, getting that community feedback as well and learning about things, improving them. And that's why your questions from those of you watching today are so important for the developers, because this is always a continuing thing. We want to make games better and better. And Michele and his team are always listening to that and working with it to make it the best it can possibly be. So let's start then with how the bike handles. What's it like to play? What is the biggest challenge in developing the physics in this bike game?
Well, the physics have two big goals. One is to cover a very wide range of bikes, because you can start from low-powered naked bikes up to racing machines. So there's a very wide range here, and the physics need to cover all this in detail. Rendering all the aspects of each bike, because each bike is there for a purpose. Each bike has been chosen and put into the game with a precise goal. So sometimes you have a slower bike. It doesn't mean that it's boring or just slower. It's got its own spirit, its own purpose into the game. The second goal, the second challenge, was to make the game very accessible. Sometimes racing games, motorbike racing games, can be very aggressive, very complex to get into. So Ride 4 tries to be something you can get into much easier. You feel less on the extreme edge, on the brake, on the throttle. It doesn't mean that it's somehow simpler or easier. It's not that. It's just a game that you can rely, a bike that you can feel more and you can get into much easier. And this means that you can concentrate more immediately on the racing part, on the challenge part, taking on virtual AIs or humans online. Also with the support of all the helps, as usual, you can turn on or off depending if you're a beginner or an experienced player. So these are the two main challenges, main goals of the physics.
And absolutely, and I can imagine it's a huge job getting that right, and it's great to see that footage there, development footage, where you can see the various sort of geometry visually. I think it'd be interesting for players and bikers watching from home just to see the amount of detail that's going in there and understanding the nature of the bike. Handling is clearly a tricky balance. What features are there to help beginners new to motorbike games, and how does that change at the expert level?
Well, the game is very intuitive to start with. So getting on the brakes, it's not something like you're going to flip over or to hard lock immediately. It's road bikes or even racing machines, but not fitted with carbon brakes, are going to be much easier to get an approach with. Then the goal is to provide you the tools to get a smoother ride, something you can trust, repeat, less falls, and concentrate on racing. As I was saying, also there are many helps you can turn on or off, the automatic gear shift, some helps to help you in the traction. Some of them you can also operate during the race, so tweaking the electronics of the bike during the race. You can turn on or off the tire wear. So there are many helps to support all kinds of players to enjoy the game throughout of all its challenges, events, different levels of approach, and different kinds of players we have, because the audience is wide and the community wants different approaches to the game.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are going full-on simulation manual, it's going to be a challenge, because you're going to need to learn those circuits, learn the braking points, learn the bumps, which are always critical in terms of biking. There's always that sneaky bump, and it's just learning all the aspects that enable you to become a better rider. It does take time. Bikes look amazing. Riders look amazing. This year, you can see big steps have been made forward. What can you tell us about the bike modelling? How's this process developed to make the bikes in Ride 4 as close to real life as they can possibly be?
Well, all the bikes have been remade completely. So we have put in place a new pipeline based on 3D scanning and CAD models provided by the manufacturers. But the 3D scan is very important, because the first step is to find the bike. Sometimes it's easy because it's a production bike and you can just get in touch with the manufacturer. But sometimes it's an older bike or a bike that is very hard to find. So the first step is finding the actual bike. Then we have a mobile scan. There's a team of people that go to the bike and take a 3D scan. This scan is not game ready, obviously. It's something very raw and very polygon heavy, but it's the base to model the bike after it. And the level of precision you can have in this way is just staggering. So what does it affect? The graphics, obviously, because the model is more precise and more realistic, but also the physics. Why the physics? Because if the bike is completely precise, also the measurements like the length of the swing arm, the geometry of the steering are perfect. So these data are taken from the actual model. So every bike can get to be much more precise, much more lifelike when it's made with 3D scanning, because all the parts of it, all the areas just go into place and work much better. So all this process can be very lengthy, very complex, but the result is there for everyone. So the result, I think, it's self-explaining.
Absolutely. Well, I think that firstly, you can see the detail of the bikes. I look at these bikes with almost amazement. When I look at the sort of effects of the textures of the materials, the complexity of the geometry, it's as close as you can get to some of these bikes. It's sort of the stuff of dreams years ago. As we move forward, they really do stand out. They're very striking, and it's wonderful for automotive heritage that we can retain those bikes and bike models in this form. And there's a lot for you watching today, looking forward to Ride 4 that you can get stuck into. About your collaborations with OEMs, we asked a couple of questions to Andrea De Soli, road racing manager at Yamaha Motor Europe. Yamaha have a close partnership with Milestone. What kind of support? So I ask Andrea, what kind of support do Yamaha provide to the games developers, such as CAD models or simulation data? And can games bring owners clubs together, perhaps expanding with new members and a common interest?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andrea Dosoli, Road Racing Manager for Yamaha Motor Europe. I'm trying to reply your question. So, the first one, yes, Yamaha is supporting Milestone with CAD models. If I'm not wrong, this is the first time, I've seen already the result. It's amazing. You know, thanks to this support, the details of the bikes, of the machine are unique, are so close to the real bike, so the definition is so high. So as a consequence, I'm sure that the gamer will really enjoy a new experience. Never in the past we have seen this kind of details. Then, second one, the community. As you know, Yamaha is investing a lot in our community. Somehow, you know, is a part of our DNA. The Yamaha family is the biggest motorsport community in the world. I believe we have more than 10 million followers on our social media channel. And I'm sure that this new platform will bring for sure new people involved. Then will increase the interest, and I'm sure the gamer and the owners, the club owners, will use this opportunity to, let's say, to establish a new relationship. So it's a new opportunity to exploit even more this big and fantastic family. And let me say that you know, I'm a racing man. I'm dealing every day with the teams and with the riders, and I can tell you that gaming sometimes is helping us a lot. Often our riders are the first one to use the gaming to learn new track. And the clear example is what happened the last weekend. We were in Catalonia, Montmeló. In Barcelona, was a new racetrack for the World Superbike. Just few riders knew the track, and the majority of our riders told me that they learned the track using gaming. So I'm sure that this partnership will bring benefit to both of us, and I'm sure that everyone will enjoy this new game. So thanks again. Have a nice afternoon. Bye-bye.
So a big thanks to Andrea for that feedback. It's really great to see how the biking world, the real biking world and the gaming biking world have come together. The automotive industry is getting involved with gaming to make it as good as it can be and to bring you a biking experience as realistic as it can be, driven by real biking passion. It's great to see, and with the data they provide to Milestone to make those Yamaha bikes absolutely perfect in the way they're designed and built up. Another aspect is the owners clubs. You know, you have owners clubs, whatever brand of bike you enjoy, you like to ride with your friends, share your passion with your friends, and Ride 4 enables you to bring that together as well. You know, go out, ride together, enjoy your passion for bikes, discover new bikes, and the range of automotive heritage that's retained from the designs and the perfection of the bike models that we have now. It really is very impressive, and it's great to see the real bike world and the gaming bike world combined there, and I'm sure many of you appreciate that watching this today. But Michele, back to yourself. More questions. A lot of focus has been on the visual improvements to the bikes, but just as big a focus should be on the circuits. Ride 4 has built an amazing selection of circuits, very impressive. Has any progress been made on circuit design and realization? And can we expect any changes or improvements to the established circuits from previous titles? And also, I should point out, I'm forever asked about the missing chicane at the end of the Northwest 200. So tell us about that.
Yes, the track selection is very strong because we have some returning tracks from the past titles. The one that were most liked by the players or fitting the idea, the overall idea of Ride 4. Then we have some new tracks. We have a selection of community-liked tracks, very famous ones, but also we've been searching for tracks that were less known, less present into the video games. So you can have the best tracks in the world, but also find some new ones that possibly you have never seen before into a video game. And talking about the technical side, we have this drone scan technique that we've been developing through the years, and so many tracks have been remade from scratch using this new technique. But also to support the day and night cycle and the weather cycle. This technical part is very demanding, very important. We'll see it later, but it implies that many things have to be done on the tracks to support it. So it's just adding more detail, but allowing it to work with this new system. Yes, about the chicane, we have supported it correctly. So on the Northwest 200, you're going to start on the straight, but then when you keep lapping, there's the chicane. And also, we've had a glimpse of the track list, but check back the website, the Ride website, after this live, because there's going to be published the full track list and the full bike list, something that players have been asking for months. It's going to be right there after the live.
Excellent. Well, it is a very impressive track list for biking fans. There's legendary corners left, right, and centre there for to attack if you're a fan and just optimise those apexes. Certainly a lot to look forward to. I think also what that video showed there was the scale of the environments that are modelled. It's not just the track, it's the surrounding environments, and that all builds towards the atmosphere and the feel and getting it just right. So in terms of circuit detail, lots of various small spot effects and improvements. They look stunning, and they really are taking it to a whole new level with the lighting and the weather and the various dynamic elements that brings. Michele, the bike models are clearly very impressive and are arguably the best we've ever seen in a video game. It's all quite mind-blowing when you consider where we've come from in video games and where we're going. But what's even better now is that you can customize your bike with a new and very powerful graphics editor. Tell us about this new implementation in Ride 4 and what it could mean for the community.
Well, as usual, the customization part has been very important in Ride because the community is strong. They're making incredible fictional or replica liveries. It's been something going on, and I think it's a strong point because this time it's like a circle. There's the bike, there's you, and so the gear customization with a helmet editor. You can create your own helmet paintwork so that it's the most evident part for a rider, but also you can customize your suit. So you can close up everything and make a coordinate set of gear and bike. So there's a lot to work on. The community is strong. I'm sure that we're going to see some amazing designs. It's there for everyone, for those who want to create, because there's a dedicated group of people that create tons of content, but also for those who just want to share, to use, and to download these creations. So if you don't want to commit to creating very complex liveries, you just can go and browse and download those made by the community, and that's a very strong point of connection between players. And don't forget about the usual mechanical customization of the bikes, because as usual you can tweak the bike for rims, suspensions, muffler, inner parts to make better performance, brake parts. So there's a ton of things, ton of new brands for customization, and it all gets to be completed because now with the new aspects we have introduced in Ride 4, it all makes sense as a whole for the players.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an adventure playground for biking fans. I mean, just looking at the footage that we're seeing here, the detail on the bikes, the detail on the riders, it's the stuff of dreams. And for those of you watching, of course, there's obviously a wide range of parts, but official suits and helmets and parts you can buy there, but also all of the creativity and design elements you can add. This was the stuff of dreams. When I talk about where we've come from and where we're going, I can sit and stare and look at these bikes now in just amazement. Just the sheer imagination many years ago, we couldn't imagine it coming this far. Very impressive. So onto graphics. Obviously graphics and the new dynamic lighting system looking much improved, especially when combined with the various weather conditions. Michele, tell us about the various improvements here, and can you confirm the frame rate on all formats?
Yes, we have this day cycle in Ride 4, so races can be short but also very long, as we'll see later, and so you can go through a complete day and night cycle, something that is very complex and demanding. And there's also a weather changing feature, so that you can start in the morning, then it gets rainy, then you get to a clear night. So it's very complex, very demanding, but also something that we've been able to optimize so that the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One keep a stable 30 frames per second, while on PlayStation 4 Pro or Xbox One X, you can tweak between a quality or a performance setting, with quality with added resolution and visuals, while performance goes up to 60 frames per second. So even though the graphics have been refined, improved with new features, we've been able to keep the performance standards we're used to.
Absolutely. Well, anyone who knows me knows I'm all about frame rate. Frame rate gives you fluidity of movement, it gives you visual feedback, and it's great that the development team are working despite all of these, the physics, the AI, the graphics improvements, the detail, the weather, that you're working on that frame rate and you're getting there, and that's great to see. Really very impressive. Audio is also critical for the experience, especially for getting that feel for the bikes and heritage. Has there been anything in the way of audio improvements to Ride 4?
Yes, we've been working on the audio because we knew it was a key point of the game. First of all, we switched to a new middleware for audio called Wise that allows a better creation process. So the bike feel more aggressive, feel more tweaked when you change the visuals from outside to cockpit mode to the replays. And we have added little details. So even if you compare, in this case, the audio to the bikes of Ride 3, you can immediately notice the change, the level of detail, of aggressiveness when you go on the throttle. You can feel some remarkably different feeling on the bike. So I think it's a definite step forward.
Absolutely. Well, audio is always key for, especially I find for the classic bikes, for generating that feeling. You can practically smell the fumes, you really want that atmosphere that it generates, and biking on the limit, really, you need that sort of screaming engine and all the various environmental effects, wind, everything all comes together. I think also something I point out quite often is, you can have a perfect microphone recording a pure audio, but many of us don't hear pure sound. If you ever go to a bike race or you're around bikes any amount of time, most of us are probably deaf. They're very, very loud. And what we hear is distortion of audio. So it's getting that audio balance just right to be what people perceive it to be as well. So great to see the improvements there. And also for those of you watching today, do remember to get those questions into us. We'll be taking those to Michele at the end of this stream and giving you as much information on Ride 4 as possible. So do continue to get those in, and we'll get to those shortly. Michele, with a great selection of bikes and tracks, this makes the perfect opportunity for an expansive career mode. What can we look forward to in Ride 4? And tell us about the new Ultimate Endurance Challenge.
Well, first of all, you have to get to the endurance races because you're going to start making your riding license. So a set of tests to make you proceed to one of the 3 world leagues. So you start from one of the 3 possible leagues, one in the Americas, one in Europe or one in Asia, then there you can find different events, not only races, but also time attack events, skill events where you have to show some performance in some areas, but also you're going to move on and find some championships, and then eventually get to the World League, where you can find also endurance races. Endurance races can be very long, very demanding, and there you have to change your mindset, because endurance races with pit stops, with tire wear, with refueling can be something very different. You have to change your attitude in keeping the pace. So it's not about just performance, hammering lap times. It's about keeping consistent, possibly sparing and shortening the stints, or possibly making fewer stints than the AIs, so you can try to change the way you approach the races. And then there are 2 more final leagues where you're going to have more events. Overall, there are more than 500 events in the all-career mode. So tons of different events on different themes with different categories of bikes. So many hours to keep entertained and challenged.
Absolutely. Well, we've got lots of great circuits, great bikes, amazing visuals, and also we've got the endurance racing there, which can be 20 minutes or 24 hours, whatever you're up to. It's demanding. Endurance racing isn't just about it's not just one on the first corner. It's about looking after your tires, looking after your bike, looking at how the race is unfolding and using your strategy, knowing when to push, when not to push, but also taking into account the various weather effects as well. Everything comes together in providing experience for a biker in understanding those conditions. But we're better to learn about biking than from a real biker. So about endurance races, we asked a question to Niccolo Canepa, the first and so far only Italian to be crowned as the FIM EWC champion back in 2017. Niccolo is also a former Le Mans winner. We asked him what it takes for a rider to prepare both physically and mentally for a race as demanding as the 24 hours of Le Mans.
For a race like 24 hours of Le Mans, we need to train both physically and mentally really hard, because it's not an easy race. It's very long, and you have to be really fit. But I think also if you are the fittest man in the planet, you will be tired at the end of a 24 hours race. So you have to be really strong mentally, and this is the main focus when I train at home, because I like to train like in more difficult condition, like for example, when I go running, I want to go running in circle. I don't want to go running in a beautiful place. I don't want to listen to music when I run, because I just want to focus on what I'm doing. So just running and training, and have no distraction. So it will be the same when I will be riding my bike during the 24 hours. Have focus on my mind, and I need to be focused only on the motorcycle, only on the pace, and on what I'm doing.
So great to hear from Niccolo there. Wonderful to have the input of a real rider in terms of the world of endurance racing. These guys, I tell you, the challenge is immense. If you've ever been on a bike at racing pace, you understand, the pressure under braking on your neck, various muscles. It's tough for these guys, and they are hard as nails with the racing that they do hour upon hour, the commitment mentally and physically. It's a huge challenge, but a challenge many of you will enjoy, because it really does push you as a racer and develop you as well. So great to hear from Niccolo there. And great racing career requires fun and engaging AI. So Michele, Ride 4 will use the Anna AI system. Can you tell us more about Anna and its implementation?
Well, this AI system with neural networks is an ever-evolving system, and Ride 4 poses some new challenges because of the large selection of tracks and wide variety in the bike categories. So we've put in place a different system tweaked for Ride 4, where the AI goes on a single track, picking up in time different bikes. So it doesn't learn with just only one bike, but tries different bikes, progressing through the classes and learning how to ride them in a sequence. This is something mind-blowing because these AIs learn the lines with the breaking points completely on their own. So it takes an incredible amount of time. And in fact, it's been something like 16 million hours of training. These hours are virtual hours because the game doesn't run with graphics in real time. It's just a version with only the physics and the AI that goes as fast as possible, because 16 million hours would be just impossible to support. And even in this way, it took months to train, develop, refine all this system. But the result is an AI that allows you to be more natural. The AI trained with neural networks is faster, more consistent, with more realistic racing lines, and much more fair to the player, while side by side in overtakes, in all the maneuvers on the track. So the result is very, very is evidently different and better than ever. But it's been a real challenge because, you know, Ride 4 has a ton of tracks and a ton of bikes, and even bikes can be upgraded. So the AI has to know and manage a bike that has different tires, different power displacement. So it's been a real challenge, but it's there, and it's something really amazing for the players.
Absolutely. I mean, again, it's another step forward in the technology. You know, AI is one of those things, I guess, you know, that's moved forward more slowly in terms of perception from gamers, because they don't see it. It's an invisible thing. There's a lot of calculations going on: tires, ambient track temperatures, where the tire wear is. There's lots of elements, and like you say, performance of the bike, and it's getting that just right. And if Anna can make that difference, it just makes it a bit more natural, so that riders behave in a way that's natural, but sometimes in a way that's unexpected. It adds that extra element to the racing and the challenge long term. So I really look forward to seeing how that's developed. It really is a great achievement for the team to develop this technology and take it to the point it's at. And with 16 million hours of playing, Anna's pretty good at the game as well. So looking back, Michele, where has there been the biggest area of improvement that gamers will notice in the Ride series from Ride 1 to 4?
Well, we've been covering a lot. You've seen that we've been working on basically everything from tracks, bikes, physics, audio, AI. But I'd say that the two most evident parts are, thinking about Ride 1, are the graphics and the physics, because it's been amazing how we could progress in these two areas. But also keeping the spirit of the game intact. This feeling of bike lovers and freedom when you're out of schemes, out of precise paths, but you can carve your own way into the game, choosing the best bikes you want, choosing the events. So with a constant thread of this freedom and this ability to be yourself in the game, I'd say graphics and physics, because are the most evident parts in the first minutes of the game.
Absolutely. I mean, as I say, when I look at the circuits, the range, the tracks, the polish that there is throughout, you can really see the evolution from Ride 1 to Ride 4. But also, you know, you take that community feedback, you want to implement it in the game without fundamentally changing the game. You know, gamers loved Ride. They want Ride to be better, but they don't want it to be an entirely different game. And it's building on that and that sort of foundation that you've built. Looking to the future now, from the past to the future, let's talk about next gen. What can we look forward to in terms of upgraded experience over the current generation of consoles?
Well, I cannot unveil all the details because it's also obviously under development. It's something completely new for everyone, but I can say that we are aiming to 60 frames per second. We're aiming to 4K. but also these new consoles are so powerful, and they are so powerful that we can squeeze more. We can obviously work on better effects, more refined graphics, but also we're working on things like putting more bikes on the track. So these consoles are really powerful, and finding a way meaningful to the players to convey more, to find new ways to enhance the game. It's not easy, but the team is working hard on this part. These machines are new for everyone, for every developer, and we're trying to find our own way to make the game even better on the new generation of consoles.
Absolutely. Well, it's an exciting time. It's always an exciting time when there's new consoles. Everybody's wondering what that's going to mean for the future of games as we go through the transition period. To many of those watching today, Michele probably won't be able to go too much in depth in terms of next-gen features. That's about as much as we've got for now. But I am going to ask another question, the next-gen myself. What are your initial impressions of the DualSense? Does it add to the experience? The controller offers a resistance in the triggers. Can you give us an idea on how that works in practice on Ride 4?
Yes, it's one of the things that are new for everyone. It's in development, so we're making experiments on this. I'm very positive because it's very nice. Both the vibration part and the trigger resistant part. I think that we can create a new communication channel to the player. There's the graphics, there's the audio, there's the vibration, and the triggers can tell you more about the braking, about the tires spinning. So we're making experiments. And I think that possibly the temptation is to overdo it, to use it too much. But I think that we should find a good midway, not to spam it, to overuse it, but to make it something meaningful to the player. Because it's something that it's going to be very powerful, but we have to make it right. So we are doing a lot of tests and experimentation.
Absolutely. I've spoken to many racing drivers over the years, cars and bikes, and real racing is about feel, and it's about finding the element that gives you an authentic bit of data that you can work with, like you say, making it practical and feeling that. And this is what the new generation will offer, is the room to expand that use of memory and build on it. And I look forward to that and the future of Ride on the next gen. Final question then, Michele, what aspect of Ride 4 are you most proud of?
I'd say that the best thing of Ride 4 is the level of polish and quality, because there were some really hard challenges. Remaking all the bikes from scratch, remaking the tracks, adding new tracks. The team has been very ambitious, very dedicated. Something like the night and day cycle, the weather cycle, were very ambitious, but I'd say that the polishing level, the quality, the overall evident quality is the thing to be very proud of. So it's a game that is bold in a precise direction. It's not, as I was saying, something like what's more than Ride 3. Not at all. It's a complete reboot. So it's been really a ride, really a challenge. But I think that the thing to be very proud of is the result of the package. The game is more of the sum of its small parts, and that's a strong point, and that's something that the players will like.
Well, absolutely. Well, it's an achievement overall. I mean, we've been through it all today. We've been through the graphics, the sound, the bikes, the tracks, the career, the AI, loads of elements there that make the whole, and it really is a lot to dive into. So those of you who are watching today, again, final chance to get those questions in. But now we've got the launch trailer. Let's check it out. So a spectacular trailer there, and it's just good to see how all the developments have come together. And a big thank you to all of you who have been sending in your questions today, and we're going to crack on with a few of those as well. First question then from Michaela is from David Hurt. He says, how is closer to MotoGP 20 or closer to Ride 3?
Well, it's got its own way. It's a question I expected because it tends to be made over and over. I'd say it's not like MotoGP 20 because MotoGP is about prototype machines, and the overall idea of MotoGP is much more extreme and much more aggressive. Ride is based mostly on street bikes or street bikes modified for racing. So technically it's already a different thing. But also the team wanted to make a game a little more accessible, a little more, I don't want to say easy, I don't want to say simple, but something like you have the limit, you can perceive it more on the front end. It's a less punishing. It's less about slapping in your face. Like MotoGP, sometimes when you turn off all the helps can be because it's very tough game. Ride aims to be a little more inclusive of gamers of all the kinds, but it's not by any way arcade or simplified. If you turn off all the helps, it's still a challenge, it's still a very complex game, but keep in mind that it's a game based on different vehicles, so it's going to be somehow different. Again, checking it against Ride 3 doesn't do justice to all the effort and to all the time has passed from Ride 3 to Ride 4. So I'd better compare it to our latest benchmarks, yes, but it's got its own way, so it's something very different from MotoGP again.
Absolutely. I mean, the challenge you have is that you have, unlike MotoGP, where you just have several bike classes, here you have hundreds of bikes, very different abilities, very different feeling to the riding, and you want to get at that and feel it, make it feel engaging for the older bikes and the newer bikes. But we were talking, the word easy popped up then, and
no.
From Wamo says, are the bots too easy?
You mean the AI?
The AI, yeah.
No, the AI is completely different from Ride 3. The AI is based on our neural network system, while in Ride 3 was not. So it's tougher. Obviously, you can scale it up and down to your likes, but if you max it up, it's very challenging as we made in all the games where Anna was performing very well. It's so challenging that usually you want to tweak it a little down. And also, catching back to the latest question, the AI also has to adapt to many situations where possibly you need some more time, where the tires change, the bike category changes. You have to relearn a lot. The AI is already spot on, knows what tires he's got, knows the bike. So Ride is about variety. Okay, keep up with the AI because the AI knows quite well all the bikes in the game.
Absolutely. Well, we do actually have a question for bikes from Phil Weeb. Says, is the BMW M1000RR and Panigale Superleggera, bit of Ducati in there is always nice. Are they in the game as well?
Well, I can say only that because we've been submerged by questions about bikes. While I was not live, I was watching the questions scrolling up. And, there's going to be the full bike and truck list after this live on the website. So check it back. And so it's better than answering one by one because everybody wants to know if the favorite bike or his own bike is in the game. Just check back the website and have a look in there and you'll have some surprises. And don't forget that there's going to be more because there's also a very lengthy DLC plan later on.
Absolutely. It's a comprehensive list as well. Very special for bike fans. Next question from El Machakos is, what is the maximum amount of riders you can have in multiplayer mode?
Oh, it's 12. It's
Well,
12.
riders there.
It's the compromise about the performance. On this generation, we are used to have this number because it's a good compromise about performances, the overall system. The online system is based on servers for Ride 4, so you can expect to have a smooth ride, a very stable experience, and it's based on 12 players at most.
Excellent. And next question is from Fabian. Any improvement to sound?
Yes, as I was saying before, we have made some re-recordings, but also we have changed the audio middleware, the audio engine we based on the system. So you can expect to have sound more aggressive and more present and more, more. It's you can have a better feeling of the bike, of the revs, of the gear shifts, and don't forget that the sound is also tightly connected to the physics, because it's a system where the physics convey information to activate it. So the physics also are much better than Ride 3 for many aspects. So you can have a connection between the physics and the audio to give you the feeling of a real lively and aggressive bike.
I think that's one of the complex issues to do with audio. Is
Yeah.
I mentioned it earlier. Is the fact that you're not just recording the bikes. You've got to get it sounding authentic. You've got to tie that sound to the physics, so it all happens at the right time. That's a very complex process, getting it sounding as people expect. A couple of questions now. You probably can't say too much about these on the next gen. We've got Brock Van Meter says, "Why no release day version for next gen consoles?" Let's kick off with that.
Oh no, I think that's it. It's already a public information about the release date. Mm-hmm. It's 21st of January for the next year. It's about the version itself. It's in development, so it's something that we're working hard on. We're aiming to 60 frames per second and 4K and much more. But yeah, it's something that it's pretty known, and there's also the option to redeem the next gen version if you buy the PlayStation 4 or Xbox version. So it's in development, but it's there.
That's going to be great as well. And David Hurt was just asking a question very similar, but you've answered that. Next question from Joao Correria. How many bikes will Ride 4 have? I'm translating some of these on the fly. How many bikes will Ride 4 have?
It's got more than 170 bikes, and with more coming in a very long DLC plan. All the bikes have been remade from scratch, so it's a healthy number, and many are coming along the way in a long plan that features both paid and free content. So as we know, we've been doing this for all the Ride games. There's going to be a continuous update of the title along the months after the release.
Excellent. Dimitri Lang says DLC ? Short and sweet question, but I guess what can you tell us about DLC at this stage?
Well, I cannot go into complete details, but as I was saying, there's going to be a very long plan. You mean something like 10 months length, and we're going to cover many things. We wanted to make many new bikes and more. So stay tuned on the website and on the social for news, but don't be afraid. There's a lot boiling. And there's a lot to be interested and entertained.
Irons in the fire. That's good to hear. Next question from Marlon van der Veed. Hope I've said that right. Will changing the exhaust change the sound on the bike?
Oh yes, it's something that we've been doing for many Ride titles, and it's something subtle but yeah, important. So yes, it's in there.
Okay, and William Hawes asks. For the team, will there be pit stops for tyre changes, and will there be mechanical issues?
In the endurance mode, you have pit stops for.
I'm assuming that. Yeah, I'm assuming that's what you're thinking.
Because on a three laps race, there's no point. But in endurance races, you have pit stops, as we have seen in the trailer. You have to change the tires and refuel, but there are no mechanical failures because basically it tend to be very frustrating. Like you're doing well and you don't know why the bike blows up. So it's about controlling what you can control: the tire wear, the fuel. So managing well things you can actually dominate instead of throwing in random failure.
So that's a key element with gameplay. Gameplay needs to be in control to a point for it to be fun.
Yeah.
Next thing is we've got all this creativity in there. Now it's Bruno Carvalho, if I've said that name correctly, and he's asking, will the liveries be shareable?
Yes, as always. In fact, it's one of the strong points of the Ride franchise, where people are not only doing the deliveries and using them locally, but they tend to share them because it's the only way also to use them online. And also people, it's very nice because they go on social networks and request liveries, because making very complex liveries is demanding. There are people spending hours and hours for making liveries, and people that don't want or are not able, because it's very complicated to do very complex liveries, ask, can you do this replica livery for helmets for the bike? And yes, so it's one big community of people sharing and requesting and making content. So absolutely yes.
I do look forward to seeing some of what the community create. I never cease to be amazed at the detail. I'm one of those people that would rather get the community or buy something from the community. Next question is from Marco Melda, asks, and for Series X and PS5. I don't know what else he's asking there, but is there anything you can tell us?
Yeah, I was saying before, the next generation is on the track. It comes out the next year. Again, 60 frames per second, aiming to 4K, aiming to have more bikes on the track. We're still seeing much of the detail because, the PlayStation has this new joypad features like the haptic feedback and the resistant triggers. There's a ton of things we're working and touching in these days, literally, because there's still much time ahead for the next gen. So yes, it's there. Don't be afraid. We're working hard to deliver a very good version of Ride 4 on the next generation.
Excellent. I think this is the final question now as well, and I will just say I'm looking forward to what the next generation can bring us. I know many of you will be. Next question from Matthias Conrad is asking, is the same AI system as in MotoGP 20? In any case, I care more about multiplayer. I think after you finish your career, you stick to just multiplayer. I think what it is, a lot of gamers, are they wondering with AI, is it going to be fresh, or are they going to have to look for a new challenge in multiplayer? At least he does. So is the AI system the same as in MotoGP 20?
Well, first of all, good luck finishing the career, because with more than 500 events, it's going to be a long challenge. But when you're over, yes, you can find a healthy multiplayer. But the AI system, as I was saying, is not the same of MotoGP. It's based on the same technology, but it's not the same thing because the technical details are complex. But making it run as MotoGP would be too much lengthy. So we had to make a development step to somehow shorten the training times, while in fact they were actually longer than MotoGP. Bottom line, expect a challenging AI, a lengthy career, and a very solid online. So I think I've covered the question.
Absolutely. Well, I've just said absolutely. There's been so much positive about Ride 4 today that I sit here and it doesn't immediately question me. I just say, absolutely, that sounds right. And it really has done. I can see the team have worked on every element. I just want to say finally a big thank you to all of our guests today as we round up, and especially to Michele for answering your questions, and to thank you all for watching this live stream and for your various questions from viewers from around the biking and gaming world. A big thank you for joining us and getting involved. The automotive gaming world has been going through a revolution over the past decade, and we look forward to sharing that journey as it continues on Ride 4 and into the future. And so it's a goodbye from myself and on behalf of the Milestone team. Thank you for watching.